Planet would give a lot of folks the willies.
Yeah, one man says it's been happening and that the government, specifically NASA, knows about it. J.R. Barry has the story.
It's a question man has been asking for centuries. Are we alone? And could there really be life out there somewhere? For some, the answer is easy. NASA, they say, knows that alien life exists and that we're being visited on a regular basis.
Maybe the powers to be are setting us up for disclosure and making it more subtle so that it isn't a big jolt to us.
Clifford Cliff is the worldwide director of MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. They have some 1,000 investigators. One of their latest investigations has to do with this video from January 28th of this year. A mysterious light is seen descending from the sky in Jerusalem. Multiple videos have surfaced of the supposed event. They all show the light hovering above the Dome of the Rock. After a few seconds, there appears to be some sort of energy burst. And then the light zooms away. So, is this proof positive that aliens exist, or is it nothing more than an elaborate hoax? MUFON believes NASA knows for sure.
They do have a significant amount of information about the UFO phenomenon and ETs that they have not disclosed that are still there. Some of the astronauts have come forward now and are indicating that they have seen and witnessed things that were beyond their explanation.
Last October, during a satellite interview with NASA Director Charlie Bolden, I asked the former astronaut if he had ever seen anything in space.
JR, I must admit, everybody that goes to space wants to see an alien. Or wants to see some evidence that there is other life in our universe, and I'm no different. But I am here to report that I saw no evidence, although deep in my heart I believe that there is good potential for other life in our universe.
There is no doubt we are being visited.
However, one of Bolden's colleagues says otherwise. Dr. Edgar Mitchell was the sixth man to walk on the moon. He came forward years ago claiming to have proof that alien life is out there.
The universe that we live in is much more wondrous, exciting, complex, and far-reaching than we were ever able to know up to this point in time. And the fact we have wondered, were we alone in the universe forever? Only in our period do we really have evidence, no, we're not alone.
So what's going on here? Why the different stories from two credible NASA sources? Last month, I had the chance to catch up with the NASA director again, this time in person, and I asked him about Ed Mitchell's stunning comments.
Ed Mitchell is a big believer in extraterrestrials. And as you and I talked about before, I am one who, because of my faith, I believe that there is very likely other life somewhere else in the universe. I just don't have any evidence to back that up. But Edgar is one who, contrary to my observations, actually claims to have evidence that extraterrestrials exist.
Well, even the Vatican is...
Shelley been scav?
None.
Paul Chodas is a scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. He and his boss, Don Yeomans, have been trying to track near-Earth objects for decades.
We didn't see it coming. It was coming from the general direction of the sun, so it was in the daytime sky as it approached.
So how did you find out about it?
Twitter and YouTube, when we first saw the images.
So the first people at NASA heard about it was Twitter?
Exactly.
The meteor that rocketed into Russia really got our attention a few weeks back. We learned today about the threat of such things to our modern world. In the meteor and asteroid tracking business, they call the big ones city killers. And while there was very little good news today about our chances of getting them before they get us, there was some talk about future remedies. Our report tonight from NBC's Stephanie Gosk.
Last month, a meteor rocketed into the atmosphere and exploded over Russia, frightening because the shockwave blew out windows and injured 1,200 people.
It came out of the sun. It came from a direction where our telescopes could not look.
Today at a hearing on Capitol Hill, leading space scientists told lawmakers the U.S. is not prepared to defend itself against meteors of the same size.
If you detected even a small one, like the one that detonated in Russia, headed for New York City in 3 weeks, what would we do?
The answer to you is, if it's coming in 3 weeks, pray.
Scientists say they have identified all asteroids large enough to wipe out the planet, like the one suspected of killing off the dinosaurs, and there is no immediate risk. The concern is meteors that are smaller, but still big enough to take out a city.
The number of undetected potential city killers is very large. It's in the range of 10,000 or more.
The probability of impact is low, they say, but at present funding levels, NASA believes it will take almost 20 years to identify them all. What would help is an infrared telescope. The government won't pay for one, but a former astronaut is looking to build the first ever privately funded deep space telescope. NASA is collaborating on the project, but the space agency says it still needs more money to identify and develop ways to protect the planet.
A good segment of the population thinks it's just a matter of call Bruce Willis in, and notwithstanding we don't have a shuttle anymore.
Press it!
Hollywood's version is definitely a bit dramatic, but scientists say there is reason to be concerned. The meteor in Russia was like a shot across the bow. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
CBS News contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at City University of New York. Welcome.
Glad to be on.
What do we expect to come out of these hearings?
Well, everything's on the table. Intercepting an asteroid, blowing it up, deflecting it. It's going to be like Buck Rogers meets the United States Congress. Now, it's a no-brainer that what they need first is an early warning system, a space telescope that can detect an asteroid from a distance, because it would only cost a few $100 million. That's chump change compared to like a stealth bomber. And realize the threat is real. You know, in Russia, if that asteroid had held intact for a few more seconds, it would have hit the ground with the force of 20 Hiroshima bombs. Casualties would have been...
The two events of Friday, February 15th, the harmless flyby of asteroid 2012 DA-14 and the not-so-harmless impact of a meteor in Russia, are a stark reminder of the need to invest in space science.
Reading from Dr. Holdren's testimony, says, quote, depending on its composition and velocity, an asteroid of 140 meters in diameter could have an impact energy in the range of 50 to 500 megatons of TNT equivalent and would be capable of causing destruction over a large region. Describe with greater detail what you mean by a, quote, large region, end quote.
The size you're talking about, 140 meters, and you've got the numbers exactly right, could devastate the better part of a continent. The only fortunate thing is that the estimated frequency with which objects of that size strike the Earth is about 1 in 20,000 years.
The one that hit Russia, there's no question about that, and that's about all we know about it. Why didn't we know that was coming, that it was in the air or on its way?
It came out of the sun, Congressman Hall. It came from a direction where our telescopes could not look. We cannot look into the sun.
Well, we can't make that determination as to where it's going to come from. We ought to be able to do something no matter where it comes from if it's going to hit the Earth.
The most important single thing we could do to improve our capacity to see any asteroid of potentially damaging size coming would be an orbiting infrared telescope of the sort that the B612 Foundation.
No, thank you.
I'll show you what shoes to wear, how to fix your hair, everything that really counts to be popular. I know about popular.
It's popularity, bitch.
I know about popular.
Where this say that.
I know about popular.
Let me tell you about the popular plan. Kicking rocks, shooting blocks, just to run from the man. Like an ostrich with his head in the sand. Puffy making a band, Wu-Tang making a clan. Let me tell you about the popular man. Running streets with his peeps just to open a can. The major plan is to gain all the fans. Mass pollute the demand, perpetrating the land. Popularity begins like this. The clothes, the hair, and colorful lips. Would you believe the popularity used to be shit? It used to not matter how much flow you could spit. It used to not matter if your pants was ripped. It used to not matter how big is your click. All that really used to matter is that you're fully legit. But all that matters now is how big is your dick. It's popularity, bitch. Where it is, say that. Popularity. Does it even exist? Is life to end up on a list to get pissed? Decide not to take it no more and ball up your fist? I'd rather be kissed by osteoporosis than end up on a list of people permanently pissed. The train to all the riches I must have just missed. The paths I should have taken are gone with the mist. None of the shit matters. Popularity hits. They don't think about the mother in the ring with
We kind of wanted to clean this image up a little bit and not have the comment look funny. So
there's no hocus pocus here really, because of course the comment doesn't really look like what I'm showing right now. There's no hocus pocus here really, because of course the comment doesn't really look like what I'm showing right now, right? Because of course the comment doesn't really look like what I'm showing right now, right?
Think about the mother in the ring with their kids. They don't care about the kids laying dead with their friends, needing blood or syringe, a gurney gauze and some meds, and a real good surgeon to remove all the lead. Now next you need a lawyer to help you defend. They're taking all your money, and then in the end, you're hoping that they let your broke ass join in. Join in. It's popularity, bitch. Say this, wear that. So to sum it all up, the popularity shit. They can all eat a dick or pick up, swallow, and spit. So they know how to flash it to get under your skin. And I'ma show them how much I can do with a pen. I'ma show everyone just how they begin. I'ma keep pushing hits till they pulling me in, so I can roll in a Benz. Clown until I don't know which town that I'm in. Bitch, I can't wait for popularity's again. Live in the city of sin. Call me out, I'm gay. Say what, where, and when. I put you under a spin. Like fish, we're missing a fin. A dog caged in a pen. 10 man's heart in a bin. So haters keep on hating, cause my girl is a 10. Standing on the walls of something ready to end. Like popularity was even real to begin. Who thought I'd have to sell my soul to get right in? It's popularity, bitch.
Day.
It is said, the comet always precedes them, these world enders. The cold sack planets are gone. 8 million settlers missing. The entire Aquilid system is gone too. Helion Prime shares its sunlight with all worlds nearby. If we fall, they fall. And after that, my God, how do I save my family? Have you heard anything I've said?
Said it's all circling the drain, the whole universe. Right?
That's right.
Had done sometime.
Sorry, this just doesn't make sense. The comet made a turn.
Turn?
Yeah, look, it just completely shifted its orbit.
Give me rover 2 on screen 1.
Rotate all cameras 90 degrees positive.
my God.
The first Earthlings to see the effects will be in Newfoundland or Newfoundland.
Hey, where have you been? You're gonna miss everything. It's in the store.
Oh, kids. I'll never marry another man with kids.
In 1910, Halley's Comet returned. Everybody thought they were going to die then. What's that?
Look!
Project, and we have guest Steve Olson with us again. I know you guys have been begging to get him back on the show, been reading through the comments, and it's always a pleasure to speak with Steve because every time he comes on, he brings something new to the table, just diamonds and gems and nuggets of incredible anomalies in the skies, Planet X, Nibiru, this binary star system, and today we're going to get into some other UFOs and anomalies that are just absolutely incredible. And he's going to share a couple exclusives with us first here on the Leak Project. And Steve, how the heck are you?
I'm doing great, Rex. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's just a pleasure to have you on the show. I know you showed me some pictures before we got started here just to get me acclimated and up to speed. And I got to tell you, the photos that you just showed me that we're about to share with our audience here are some of the most fascinating and incredible pictures I have ever seen when it comes to not only UFOs, but also Planet X and this binary star system. I mean, this is just incredible. So thank you.
Yeah, hey, no problem. And like I said, we'll get right to it. But I thought one of the things that we talked about prior to this was, I had a subscriber that, kind of shook my tree yesterday, and he went through and he listed a list of facts for me that he thinks that we've successfully established. So this isn't my list. This is a subscriber list. Okay. But I thought it was pretty poignant, and I just wanted to share this because a lot of people are getting confused between what the facts of this situation are and what are conjecture. Let me give you an example. So I might say in a photograph that I know is UV and no way that there was a lens flare in it, and then point out an object, and then I'll get 4 shills that will come on and say, that's a lens flare, that's a lens flare, that's a lens flare, right?
Yeah.
So I know that they're trying to mislead my audience when they do that. So I'm going to spend some time talking about things that we've established as, I think, facts, okay?
Great.
So the first fact I think that we can all agree to, including the mainstream media, is that the Earth axis or poles are shifting. Right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So that magnetic North Pole is moving towards England right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it moves faster every year. In fact, it doubles in speed every year.
Okay.
Okay? Fact. No disputing it. So what do we have? We have a bunch of articles last week from Washington Post, New York Times, and the PR that was going out last week was that, yes, indeed, the Earth is tilting, so we'll stop arguing about that. But what's causing it is global warming.
Well,
that's what they said.
And you also brought something to my attention the other day when we spoke about how, yeah, there's definitely pockets on Earth that are getting a lot hotter and more extreme, but there's also other locations that more ice and colder and more snow and water than it's ever been as well, right?
That's right. Go look at Ben over on Suspicious Observers. And guys, a lot of folks think that I'm at odds with Suspicious Observers because I take more of a, I don't know, spiritual approach to it, I guess. And I do try to stay on science, but Ben is a genius, right? And he tracks this stuff, and he spent a lot of time last year talking about, why aren't we talking about the record lows across the world? He said, because it's not that we have record high temperatures across the world, it's that we also have record lows. It's the extremes that he was trying to say is a more important conversation is the extremes than global warming. So if you think about that for a second, like we know that the Antarctic ice sheet increased in size over the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yet the North Pole melted. Both poles didn't melt. That's a lie. The southern ice sheet is increasing in size. Now, it might have stabilized this year and gone down a little bit, but for the last 3 years, it's been increasing.
Okay.
So you have to ask yourself, well, is the southern pole more tipped away from the sun now, and the northern pole more tipped towards the sun? That would be a plausible explanation, right? But nobody talks about the extreme lows. Nobody talks about the record ice, right?
Right.
New Zealand has experienced their all-time low temperatures, record temperatures this year.
Okay.
In the southern hemisphere. The other thing you'll notice is in the southern hemisphere, we have less population. So from an awareness standpoint, most of the people that are going to be focusing on the weather are the northern hemispheres. Not saying that the people in the southern hemispheres don't count. There's just many more people in the northern hemispheres than there are in the southern hemispheres.
Mm-hmm.
So we wouldn't notice it as much. The second thing is that, yeah, everybody talks about amateur astronomers catching 7X. Why aren't the amateur astronomers screaming? I don't know. I got hundreds of them screaming at me.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. Every single day.
I got a picture. These are amateurs, right? Amateur astronomers.
Yeah, exactly.
We know extreme weather is incurred. I don't want to spend all day on this, but just look at this list. NASA keeps turning off their satellites, and it's just random. It's not like they're losing a signal. It's anytime something comes up on that screen, they turn it off.
And I'm looking through these, like multiple radiation lens flares are being taken with numerous different colors on one picture. Something's pulling our solar system.
Yep.
You know, the different heads of state that have been to the South Pole and investigating some very strange anomalies. And how about the Pope and the Queen coming out this year saying, you know, cryptically speaking, enjoy this Christmas because it could be your last?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like you can't, this isn't something where you can take one picture and say, this is proof. This is one of those kinds of things that there's so much subterfuge around the subject and so much deception around the subject. It's almost like you have to find lots of evidence to hit critical mass, because otherwise you just never will get through it. So the next thing I wanted to drag you through is, okay, so I wanted to show this because this is kind of a vindication for me. So can I have to take some revenge on the shills for a minute?
That'd be great.
So I put up this tongue-in-cheek, on March 21st, I had a subscriber that sent me the H1 photo that you see down there. And at the end of the frame, at the end of the sequence, Jupiter exploded. This is Jupiter, and it just flashed like really big, like there was a sun flare or something. And so tongue-in-cheek, I said, did Jupiter just explode? And then I had a discussion. We looked at it, you know, like I do on my videos, right? I had no less than 500 shills come after me and tell me that I was an idiot, that I was a dumbass, that put away this stuff. They try to discourage lay people from looking at this stuff, right? By making you feel stupid, right?
Exactly.
That's what they do. And I actually did. I was like, man, I shouldn't have done that. I even went and changed the title. I was just like, I was just trying to observe this really neat anomaly about Jupiter. I didn't mean to make it sound like it was exploding. I know it's not exploding. All my subscribers, the good ones, were coming to me saying, Steve, we know you didn't mean it exploded. You know, that kind of thing, right? Guess what we find out from an amateur astronomer on March 17th?
Something serious happened out there.
That's right. It did get hit by multiple objects, and they saw that through March 17th through the 20th. So the point is that, we might jump on something and find something, and it's interesting when these shills get really aggressive. Just take a step back, guys. Don't be so quick to believe the naysayers, because in this case, I have solid scientific evidence that shows that Jupiter was struck.
Well, I had to take down a few of my comment sections just because 75% of the stuff on there were, these shills trying to provoke people, and then they'd find a way to make them upset. So they're giving each, they're throwing insults back and forth at each other, swearing, cursing, saying, and it gets to the point to where you almost have to say, is it worth keeping these comment sections up sometimes? Because these shills, they're just so keen and they're so good at, I guess you could say, psychology, that they know how to spin people. And then there's people that are just trying to help, and they get upset because they'll say something to them, and then it just turns into this snowball effect. It's ridiculous.
Right. So again, I want to say that, guys like Rex and I can take care of ourselves. Number one, you don't have to fight the shills. And in fact, just a quick message, you guys, don't. Just ignore them, please. Because it does, just ignore them, continue learning. If they have something interesting to say, certainly look at it. But the big point I wanted to bring up today, though, is I went digging, and I think it was Tom Horn was talking about the rattlesnake prophecy the other day. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Tom Horn here. He's a Christian author. But anyway, this rattlesnake prophecy was just, I noticed that it was completely distorted in 2012. Everybody grabbed this ancient, I can't remember which tribe it was, but this prophecy from one of the Indian tribes, and just completely muddled it with all kinds of 2012 talk. But if you pull out all the 2012 talk, this is what the rattlesnake prophecy says. When the earth sees the fingers of Spearfinger, which in this case, this tribe calls the Nibiru system Spearfinger, strike Jupiter, when the ages of the rings and the wheels tell it is the ending of the ages of cycles of 5. And I've always believed that we're in the 5th epoch. This will be the sign for the whole earth. For all the earth will see this thing to wake up from sleep. So when I see something bash into Jupiter so noticeably like this, it just brought the rattlesnake prophecy to my mind, Rex.
Yeah, that's a very good correlation there. And it makes you wonder, I mean, if all of these asteroids are getting closer to Earth because of this second system that's bringing everything in, when are we going to start to see these types of effects?
That's right. Next thing I wanted to kind of show you was, remember how we were talking about the big halo last time that we've been showing, this big halo? And sometimes we see it really clear, and sometimes we don't see it very clear. And then I was proving to you that it was actually in space by showing you an ISS photo of this. Now, I'm probably getting a lot of eye rolls when I talk about space shields, right? It can make you sound pretty right?
Right.
Okay.
They're thinking Star Trek kind of stuff just because of the conditioning process.
Correct. And remember, what I'm talking about is probably a very thin material, translucent material, and it would not be hard to deploy something like that level at a certain distance from the Earth. And I'm starting to think that this chemtrailing and this shielding I think they feel like they had to do this to stop the amount of radiation that's coming at us. Especially UV radiation. So you go out and try to find data on UV radiation, guys. You will have a tough time finding any good scientific data on UV levels. And
I can prove that the microsieverts have doubled over the past 3 years, Steve, because I've constantly got I've got a watch that's got a built-in Geiger counter, and they cost about $1,500. You can pick one up at MTM Watches. And everywhere I've gone across the country, I've traveled this country quite extensively the past 3 years, and literally the radiation levels have doubled.
Right. So I guess what I'm going to say is I'm defending the government a little bit. and I hate doing this, but it's true. I think that they were in a no-win situation with this, right? I think, as it came, do I think there's a great deception? Do I think it's evil? Yes. Do I think that there's Illuminati ties and, some of this wickedness? Absolutely, I do. But in this case, I look at this and all I see is science trying to combat something is what I do. I see these guys up there every day trying to stop this thing from baking the planet to death. That's what I see.
Wow. You could be right. Absolutely. It kind of reminds me of the movie Highlander too.
Said. Remember what Snowden said when he was interviewed on this subject?
Mm-hmm.
I went back and reread Snowden's testimony. He's the only one that's seen real data about this, right?
Right. Well, that we know of.
Yeah, and that's what he says. He's saying that it's a benevolent attempt by the government to stop this thing from frying the planet. And then I would say the less honorable thing is that they use this also to hide it.
Right.
So I'm showing this one because this is the most intense picture I've seen of the halo, and it's in the chemtrailing and everything like that. I think the shield's starting to fail. It's getting to the point where they can't hide it anymore. It's getting, and I think that the reason it's turning colors is because it's actually at the end of its life. I think it's getting burned. I think all the stuff's getting too close now.
You think that the sun, our regular sun, is getting close to the end of its life as well?
I wouldn't say that. I don't know enough of the science behind that. I think that the sun and this other dead star are in conflict with each other right now, though. Absolutely. Okay. So, for example, this dead star, who knows what kind of electrical reactions going on between the sun and this thing? I think a lot of what's going on behind the Earth-facing part of the disk, the stuff that they never show us right now, all the behind stereo satellites are down. I think what we would see is we'd see the black star behind the sun.
Wow.
And they're interacting with each other.
And so, do you think it rotates to where sometimes you can actually take a picture, and that's what people are seeing oftentimes when they have a secondary sun in that picture, that it could be the reflection of this nemesis?
Yeah, and remember, we're rotating around the sun. We're always in motion around the sun, so I would not expect the object to be in the same place even 3 or 4 days later.
Okay.
Right? So everybody asks me, well, it moves all around. I said, well, guess what? We're moving all around.
Right.
Now, this picture was cool because this came from Central Texas yesterday, Rex. And this is the last I'll say about the shield, okay? Because I know a lot of people think I'm nuts because I talk about the shield, but look at this. Doesn't this look like pieces of a shield or some type of material disintegrating and falling from the sky?
Either that or tears in the time continuum, and the first one makes more sense.
I'm open-minded to tears in the time continuum. Look, man, if you're not up as a layman should be up on physics, they are completely concurring now that time travel is possible.
And if
there's
no
physicist is going to argue with you on that. They're not. They know. So who knows, right?
These are some mind-blowing pics. I have never seen one that intense, like you said, with those chemtrails. That's wild.
This one. Yeah, this is the first time I've actually seen the sheets up in the sky falling down. I've seen the filaments, like in Texas, falling down.
Okay.
But this is the first time I've seen big sheets of it falling from the sky.
Yeah. I remember back in 2013, Colorado Springs, I was walking with some friends, and they were spraying chemtrails so bad that day. I was wearing some polarized glasses. I was like, hey, look, guys, you can see just billions of these tiny particles fall down from the skies. And one of them goes, let me see that. So she took my glasses, and she goes, oh, my God, you're right. I said, of course I'm right.
Yeah, we're not lying.
Think I'm making this up? Oh, yeah, look, there's Mickey Mouse. He's hanging out there with Papa Smurf, and, they're smoking a doobie. I mean, come on, guys.
And then the last one I'm going to show you is just a little video clip. I just got this yesterday, but this is strange animal behavior. I don't know how strange this is or not, but it reminds me of a couple of apocalypse movies when the birds freak out, and this is a guy freaking out on them freaking out.
Okay.
So it's all these birds just like flying in weird circles. They're just flying in big circles. I don't know, just weird, right?
That is odd, yeah.
So anyway, these are some of the things I'll be doing in my video today. But The other thing I wanted to, I had brought to you is a couple of photographs too. Do you want to go through those now?
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay, so these are right off the press. Okay. Okay, what do you see there, Rex?
Well, at first I thought it was just a close-up of a Tesla coil, but you have some other information.
That's right. This is just random lightning. No reason for it to be there.
That's spooky.
Mm-hmm. It seems to be emanating from the sun, doesn't it?
It does. And do you think that we're going to start seeing more of this now?
I do. And here's the science behind the theory, okay? And again, this goes with the suspicious observers' observations as well. And that is that, they believe and I believe that we live in an electric universe, okay? And imagine yourself walking across the carpet, right? And, in the wintertime and when it's dry. And you touch, what happens when you touch the doorknob?
You get shocked.
Right, you get a big shock. But it doesn't happen from across the room, does it?
No.
You have to be within proximity before that happens. Right?
Right.
So here are planets, let's say in this idea, there are planets that are traveling through space. They're dragging their feet across the huge carpet.
Mm-hmm.
And then they finally get close enough to another body and they discharge. Now, if you haven't been exposed to this arena of information, we actually have footage of when Comet Ison a few years ago was doing its run around the sun. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was a huge comet, everybody, and go look it up, Ison, in case you don't know what it is. And you will find that the sun actually discharged on Ison and blew it to bits. So when Ison is dragging its carpet across the proverbial carpet, and then it got finally close enough to the sun and it discharged, the sun basically blew it to pieces.
Jeez, that's wild.
Into three big chunks is what happened. Yeah. So these electromagnetic discharges, if what we're saying is true, then we would expect to see more and more of this over time.
And this, do you think, could actually start to affect the satellites and such that are in space, maybe telecommunications and everything else?
Yeah, and in fact, it already is, right? I mean, we have days where, let's go. Like, if anybody's got satellite TV, right? We know that the rain clouds will block the signal, and sometimes we'll lose our signal with satellite TV.
Right.
Especially electrical storms, right?
Okay.
Well, you're going to notice that some days you're going to have bright blue skies, and yet your TV is messing up. That's probably due to electromagnetic discharge in the atmosphere from the sun or sun flares, things like that.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, let me take you to this one first.
Oh my goodness. This is it, folks. Unbelievable.
Yeah. This is the best UFO photograph I have ever seen.
Looks like you took it from the X-Files series, the last one that came out. Remember when Mulder's sick and they've got that that saucer that's right above the car?
Right. Remember the one that zapped that girl that was in the car?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what this looks like. So I don't believe this is of extraterrestrial origin, first of all.
One of ours.
It's one of ours, I believe. And maybe even one of our listeners will be able to tell us what make and model it is, okay? But this is a person that I know very well, guys. The person that sent me this photograph, this is a person that's been trying to photograph the Nibiru system for the last 6 months. Just a very enthusiastic researcher. She lives in Mesa, Arizona. She is just a good-hearted soul, and I love her. And then she sent me this photograph yesterday, and I actually questioned if we should show it.
Wow. That is incredible. And look at it almost looks like some type of, I'm not going to say teleportation beam, but some type of, I guess, energy source that allows it to, that's like the rocket almost, I guess, right? On the bottom there?
Who knows, right? It could be some type of electromagnetic plasma due to anti-gravity or something like that, right? But, you know, it makes me wonder how many times I've seen the three lights flashing across the sky, and what was behind it was that instead of an airplane.
Yeah. And, I mean, just the lines are so perfect.
Oh, check this out, Rex. Check out this view of it.
Oh, wow.
That looks like a creature coming at me.
Yeah, it does. Looks like a Cylon almost. Jeez.
So the question is, you know, what does this got to do with Planet X, right?
Well, maybe they're coming back with it.
So let's say that this is, let's go with option A, that this is extraterrestrial. I will testify, and I'm sure other reporters will testify, that the number and quality of UFO photographs has exponentially increased in the last year.
Absolutely.
And I'm telling you guys, these are not photoshopped in any way. This is exactly what we took a photograph of. I think she dimmed it just a little bit to bring out some of the, you know, the details in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, right? Now check this out. I'm going to go to another one. This is a researcher in the Netherlands. This was yesterday, I believe, and he captured this.
Looks like the War of the Worlds blimp.
Another Nibiru. Yeah, yeah. And again, these are two serious Nibiru researchers, okay? These are people that are well known. I mean, it wouldn't be hard to find these guys because they do it every day in the same way. So the first question I wonder is, are they being surveyed by this technology? Or is this just random catches that they got of this technology? I don't know. But this is clearly technology, okay? I mean, there's a wire coming out of it, something hanging down from it.
Wait, what do you think that is? Some type of sensor system?
It looks to me like some kind of a drone technology, honestly, to me. Again, I'm just speculating. Who knows, right? But I believe it's a drone of some sort. I just think it's a drone.
Well, that was
Just
what
a new
first came to
style
my
drone.
mind. Yeah, I mean, that was the first thing that I thought of when I saw it. It's just some type of drone. However, it doesn't necessarily mean it's one of ours or it's not one of ours.
I don't know. Right? Again, I'm a reporter. A lot of people expect me to be like, you know, I'll get this thing like, you need to go to physics school or whatever. It's like, you know what? No, I don't. I'm a reporter, okay? And I'm going to talk about what I see, and I'm going to speculate and conjecture just like other reporters do on the mainstream media. I don't know why it's a sin for us to do it, Rex, but apparently we
Strange
can't
how that works.
Yeah, we can't conjecture. We can't speculate. You know, we have to be like dead on, and we have to have NASA, you know, validation and all that stuff. Really? Come on.
I think a lot of it is just people's, you know, some people are so confused and they're just looking for a reason to come after you because they don't want to believe it oftentimes.
Yeah, and it's not like, and the thing I want to keep pointing out is that I am not taking these pictures, you guys. This is not me just like pulling stuff out of Photoshop. These are credible researchers. Now, Sharon Graybeck, one of the most credible Nibiru researchers out there, she takes infrared photography. She is absolutely honest and integrity to a fault. She won't show anything unless it's poignant and interesting. She won't show just sunshots and stuff like that. She sent this one out, and this is actually facing southeast of St. Louis.
Okay. Now, I've seen pictures before with those zebra stripes.
Doesn't it kind of, yeah, and I've seen that, like, especially in Mexico cams, we see this expression of an orb or okay, let's keep the possibility open that it's a lens flare, okay? But I don't know if lens flares are possible. It's possible for a lens flare to show so much detail and multiple colors.
Well, what would you say, Steve, to the people that said, well, how come it's so, you know, how come you can see through half of it?
Translucent light?
Yeah, uh-huh.
So when they're chemtrailing, you'll notice that sometimes they have really opaque, like you can just see the chemtrail. It's a big, heavy gas coming out, and it just lingers and it's white and everything like that. Other times, if you're looking really closely and a little bit higher in the atmosphere, you'll see constant spraying with a not as visible chemtrail.
Okay.
So they're pumping so many different chemicals into and what they're trying to do is lighten and keep very, anything that would be seen in the daytime as obfuscated as they can. But sometimes you're just going to see through, especially as they come close. We're just going to see them through that shield that they've been putting up.
Yeah, because I have seen many pictures that do have the same lines, and that's a very cool anomaly indeed.
And the reason I like this one is because it's just laying out in space by itself. It wasn't like right next to the sun with all kinds of flashes and it's just the orb in space.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, that's a compelling photo.
Yeah, that's a good one.
This one really got me. We've been looking for more evidence on the green planet. And this has got dimension to it. It's got some kind of a tail on it. But clearly this is some kind of object in space.
Well, that's a good one, and it looks very similar to that color of the, I called it the green Kachina, just joking around, but that's got a really very interesting, Steve. That's incredible. Where was this taken at? What part of the skies, do you know?
This was taken in Europe somewhere, and they didn't give me much more detail other than they were away from the sun.
Okay. And am I seeing, do you see that little black spot? Oh, yeah, that guy right there. What is that, just a cloud, or what do you feel that might be?
It could be a moon.
Huh.
Who knows?
Okay.
But that's just interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's not something you see in the sky every day, right?
No.
Okay, I just want to be sure I'm not crazy.
I haven't seen one of those in a while. Yeah, never.
Before I move off this, though, I want to show you a picture. And the reason why I think this is interesting is it just gives us, okay, it's just a reference picture, guys, okay? And you have to remember, I also believe in spiritual things. So to me, if you come to me with the Book of Revelation, I feel that that's as much scientific fact as if you came to me with, data from CERN. Okay.
Okay.
I don't differentiate between spiritual facts and facts like science facts.
Right.
So I'm showing you an artist's rendition right now of a dream that one of my subscribers had. In the dream, and it was a vivid dream, and this guy's not a spiritual zealot of any kind. He's really just kind of a spiritual guy, doesn't really go to church, that kind of guy. Just loves God kind of thing. And then so just recently he had this such a vivid dream that he commissioned a painter to paint it for him.
That's a nice
because
painting.
he was so compelled by that vision. So on the top, you see a asteroid going from left to right. So the first thing he saw was an asteroid, a big asteroid, going from left to right. The white object is the moon. I would note that it's full. Just that's because I always notice stuff like that. So we look for now, right? Then you've got the big red object and the blue object, right? And then we've got the green object now that we're seeing. So it's not science, guys, in the way that you typically think of it, but when I have somebody, and I believe the human mind is way more perceptive than we give it credit for. When I have a guy tuning into this kind of a picture that corroborates so strongly with some other stuff that I've been seeing, I can't ignore it. I can't ignore that.
Well, and it's got all the players there, the blue, the red, the green.
Yeah. And even to kind of further underscore this, I want to show you one other image, if I can find it real quick, that I used. Let's see here. You'll have to just give me 1 second here, Rex, because I had it ready.
Yeah, no problem. While you're pulling that up, I was just going to bring up there's so many images with sky cams now. Like you said, you can go find a billion of them on Google. There are some that I've noticed from a specific sky cam where you can see like the red dot, a couple blue ones, a couple green ones, a couple purple ones, and they weren't there a year ago. So I'm wondering if that's what these planetary bodies are, if that's actually them or if it's just some amazing swamp gas.
Well, and I'm going to take you to a slide I did the last show that I did, and I was basically showing that corroboration. There's your sky cam photo like you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
So I got this guy named Roy, who's my partner, and he comes in and so he is disproving, his whole goal is to disprove that any of this is lens flare in the Skycam. So he has done amazing work with the Skycam imagery and blowing them up and getting super high definition of these little dots that show up like they're red and blue and everything like that.
Okay.
Well, he took this off the Savannah Skycam 3 days ago. And you know, guys, this isn't a sun flare because when he blows it up, it's actually got dimensionality to it, and two separate colors.
Yeah, the
red
purple.
and blue.
Or blue, okay.
Yeah, red and blue. And what I thought was really weird was at the same time I got Roy's imagery, I got this. Same time.
Wow, look at that. Synchronicities, huh?
Yeah, so here's what we're hypothesizing is Nibiru, and here's the clouds around it like the iron oxide dust, and then here's that orbiting blue moon or planet that it orbits with, and then here's the vision of the guy. So, you know, I don't discount stuff that just because it comes from somebody's, you know, spiritual side. You know what I'm saying, Rex?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that to be in tune with your spirit is very key. Whether, you know, everybody has a different opinion on what God is, and some people don't believe in God, and that's fine. But, you know, I think that if you can be in tune with Source and have a good outlook on spirituality and try and just evolve yourself and help others, I feel that that's one of the best things you can do to really be in tune with Source.
Yeah, and I love the word source, and a lot of my Christian fundamentalist friends won't like that word, okay? The reason for that is once you become a fundamentalist Christian, you believe that everything has to be said a certain way, and you know what I mean?
It's very dogmatic. Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, very dogmatic. And in fact, I one of my titles was, I just saw the Earth tilt, holy crap. That was the title, right?
Yeah, I remember that video.
Yeah, holy crap. And I had a fundamentalist Christian come back and say, how dare you use the word holy with such an impure thing? And I wrote back and I said, listen, Jesus crap, so is his crap holy then?
Oh my gosh, that same person wrote to me. And they said the same thing, because on occasion I will say, holy crap. I won't, you know, I mean, I'll not swear, but, and then, so I even apologized. I said, look, I wasn't trying to offend you in any way. Here's another thing we talked about this also, Steve, is I've got an eye in my logo, so people think that, you know, it's the Eye of Horus or something. It's not, folks. It's an eye that was designed to, as representation of being able to see through the veil of deceit. And all the hand means, folks, is it's a form of protection. That's it. They're just symbols. They're nothing evil. You have two eyeballs. It doesn't mean you have two devils in your head. I hope not, anyway. So, you know, hopefully you don't have to pluck out your eyeballs to go to heaven, folks. I'm sorry. I just had to throw that out there.
I know, but the reason I wanted to mention this a little bit too is there's a lot of folks that are going to get turned off because of the fundamentalist approach to information, right?
Right.
And the dogma and stuff like that. And I want to encourage people. A lot of Christians have been paying attention to this for a long time, just because it's in their scriptures, okay?
Of course,
it's in our prophecy. So whenever we see anything that could be a biblical prophecy, and I'm a big Paul Begley lover, and
he's a great guy. Yeah, I love Paul.
He's awesome, man. But I'm that kind of Christian. I'm definitely a Christian all the way. But one of the things that I've learned over the years is that you gotta let God do his work, man. You can't just like expect somebody to walk into this stuff and, you know, buy into your dogma. Number two, I don't want anybody to think that just because you're not a Christian or you're not spiritual that you can't talk to me or be with me, because I don't care where you come from, honestly. I really don't. And I wish that all Christians would take that point of view, man. Just get your arms open, man. How many people did you see Jesus rejecting, guys, in the Bible?
And doesn't Jesus even say, if you were going to follow one commandment, the most important one is treat your neighbor as thyself?
Right. It's love the Lord God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. Those are the two greatest. And all the law, he said, is wrapped up in those two commandments.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a
good
point.
I didn't mean to get off on a tangent, Christian tangent. I'm kind of more berating my Christian fundamentalist friends who I love. I just want you guys to mellow the hell out.
Well said, Steve. I'm glad you brought that up in this podcast. I think that was a good idea.
Well, Marshall Masters is another great example, and I love Marshall Masters. And talk about a guy that's had to take a beating, you know, for the last 20 years, right?
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He is really a great guy. And one of the things I've learned in talking to him is he's talking to the same God I'm talking to, guys. I'm here to tell you that Marshall is hearing love. That's what he hears. And when he talks about, I want to get closer to the source, he's talking about God, okay? He just doesn't want to come out and sound like a Christian because he doesn't want to be associated with us. I get it.
Do you know what the real definition of God actually is? If you look up one of the oldest accounts of the definition of God is unknown. So when you say thank you, God, I mean, it's almost like saying thank you, unknown. So just to put a specific word, or, like saying source, or, sometimes I'll use the term divine providence, because I think that is, just as valuable as saying God or whatever else you do. I mean, everybody has their own opinion on things. So I'm also glad you brought that up as well, because some people they fall away from what's most important because they're trying to pinpoint these little dogmatic sayings.
Yeah, and it's not helping anybody, guys. It doesn't help anybody, right? Now, we're going to come into, look, UFOs are real, guys. I'm not going to argue about it, and I'm not gonna back down from this, okay? Are they from an extraterrestrial origin? We can debate that. Are they benevolent or malevolent? We can debate that. But don't start bringing your dogma into this, because the Bible doesn't address UFOs, except for in the book of Ezekiel and a couple other places, okay? So what are these things? Why are we seeing more UFOs right now? Look, man, Rex, I have never seen a picture like this before.
My mind is blown. That is incredible.
Yeah, I still am afraid of this picture. My hair is standing up, right? And I'm saying is that, we're going to see more and more UFOs. And I believe that they're actually, honestly, I do believe that we are going to see inhabitants of this system soon.
Do you think they're going to be giants, like talked about? Okay.
Yeah, I think that the Bible account of it is incomplete because they tore out the two parts that would give us the complete story, the Book of Enoch and the Book of Giants.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe there are two distinct possibilities that I see, with UFOs. I didn't mean to get into the UFO theory, okay, but
I'm glad you did. Yeah, I'm really glad you did.
To relate to this, right? There's several theories, I mean, there's probably a million of them, but there's two that I kind of rest on. The one theory that I rest on is that could UFOs be previous epochs of mankind coming back to the Earth?
Now, I've heard that before.
Okay. And when you think about a system that's in solar system proximity as Nemesis, and let's say that one of the epochs was technologically advanced enough to actually hop over to that planet and inhabit it. Let's say that we got so technologically advanced that we had people sent out into space. And let's say that the end of that epoch was a ass whooping and the Earth was destroyed and sent back to the Stone Ages of whatever relative time that was. And then these guys come back and find the Earth destroyed.
I mean, that's a really good point.
Or like you look at the moon, for example, the secure team does a great job on this stuff, which is the structures on the moon.
Oh yeah, crazy anomalies.
If you haven't seen these structures on the moon, go check out what secure team does on this stuff. Look, there are structures on the moon. There's a 2-mile high tower on the moon. Okay? And, guys, so you got to ask yourself, well, who put that stuff there, right? I personally believe that we made it there once.
Oh, and look at Mars and all the anomalies and pyramid structures. I've got video footage of this, what looks like a pharaoh literally carved into a cliffside from one of the Mars rovers that's out there. You can actually go to NASA's website and look specifically at this, and you'll see a path, Steve, that goes down perfectly, and the lines are symmetrical with each other, and it goes down to this pharaoh-looking carving that's literally in this. And if you overlay that specific statue-looking pharaoh with one of ours here on Egypt, it looks almost identical. It's just got more of a cone head. It's amazing.
Yeah, it always makes me, Egypt is really interesting to me because it just seems like for some reason, if there has been intergalactic contact, I think a lot of it happened in Sumerian Egypt. And, with all the drawings and hieroglyphs and everything like that. And then the other thing is that Egypt, we know, has gone through this. So how does this relate to Planet X, right? That was the question I was going to ask.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I believe that this relates to Planet X is because, and the other option for UFOs in my mind is that they're of extraterrestrial origin, which I completely accept as possible. And the reason I say that is, just like everybody else is saying, there's billions of stars, billions of planets. It would be ludicrous and extremely egotistical for us to think we're alone. Just egotistical.
It's mathematically impossible.
It is mathematically impossible. So do I allow for these to be visitors from other worlds? Yeah, I do. But remember, these beings are talked about. We have beings talked about in the Bible that are aliens. The 200 watchers that came down on Mount Hermon or whatever, and then made, and basically picked wives and all that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, it's like, just read your Bible, man. The Bible talks about Melchizedek. Where did he come from? Abraham had to give him a sacrifice. That dude seemed pretty high ranking, but he didn't have a father or mother, the Bible said. And it didn't talk about his origin. What about the 7 spirits in the book of Revelation? You guys talk about one Holy Spirit. The Bible talks about 7.
Or how about we created man in our image? What's your take on that?
Well, you'd have to go to Michael Heiser to get the good answer on that one.
Okay.
So
he was on the other day, and you know what? I'm sorry, I got to interrupt here real quick, Steve, because we had him on the other day, and he would just basically debunk everything.
Yeah, and yeah, I know he's got a big thing for Sitchin, but what he's trying to show with Sitchin's work is that it's a distortion of his view of the Elohim, right?
Okay.
So Michael Heiser is one of those. He actually thinks that this is more complicated than just God and man. He thinks that there's God, the source, the main creator of everything, and then the council of the gods. That's what he says it is, right? And these were basically God's sons, what the Bible would call the sons of God, right? And that these were actually godlike beings, right? And humanity is actually replacing them. That's what he would say, because they failed to live up to the Creator's expectations. So I'm dubious, right? I'm dubious of all these different parsings and everything like that. Especially, the reason I like Michael Heiser is because he's opened me up to an idea that when I look at a scripture like, let us create man in our own image, he's given me something that I can grab onto and say, yeah, that makes sense. Now I can say, yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, okay.
So he's saying in that passage what Michael, I think, was saying, and Michael has to speak for himself, but he was saying that there was the council, the divine council with God at the head of the table, and they were discussing mankind, and they all agreed it was good that let us then create man in our own image, and that was the ruling of this sacred council, if you will. That's what Heiser would say.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, he's a well-educated individual.
But no, I don't expect a Michael Heiser, a student, a scholar, and all those things, who has spent most of his life in academia. In fact, he actually, part of his education was over here at the University of Wisconsin here in Madison, one of the best history departments in the world, by the way. I get, you can get ensconced in the scientific method. You can get ensconced in, if things don't flow a certain way, they're not real from a scholarly point of view. But that's why I think we need laymen like me and you, reporters that say, you know what, just because Michael Heiser doesn't believe it doesn't mean it's not true.
Right, absolutely.
But what I do get out of Michael Heiser, though, is a completely different way to think of the Old Testament.
Like,
and he makes,
what do you mean by that?
He makes the point that the Old Testament, and I also believe this too, by the way, if you don't have some context of what a person from that time would believe, it would be very hard for you to understand what they meant when they said Elohim.
Right. Or just when they bring up certain passages and we look at it, it's like, wow, why would they do that? Just the time frame and their upbringing, their parents' upbringings were so different that it's really tough to relate the overall concept because we're in such a different time right now.
Right. Well, let's take one big one. Like, if you're a Christian and you've experienced the love of God, or whatever religion that you've experienced the love of God, presence of God, And you know that loving, you know, that super strong feeling of love and compassion and everything that we associate with God, right?
Right.
Well, we have that loving feeling that we associate from God. I don't even know where I was going with that, but no,
squirrel.
But
no, just kidding.
But then all of a sudden we see God committing genocide, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of tough to figure out why.
Yeah, if you can't face up to the fact that the Old Testament shows the children of Israel committing genocide, then you're not a real Bible scholar. You have never read the Bible. That was genocide.
Big time.
So the question is, why would this loving God do that?
I can't come up with an answer for that.
Well, Heiser's got an answer for it. And I think it's pretty plausible that what we've got going on right now is not just a spiritual war in the classic sense of praying and, and deception and, truth and all that good stuff. I think that there's a battle also going on for the origin of life. Who's going to take credit, or who's going to be the origin of life? So when God and Satan were arguing with each other in the Garden of Eden, or when they were discussing, Adam's and Eve's sin or whatever, it wasn't about, I'm going to take you down, mofo, or anything like that, right? It was, my seed is going to destroy your seed.
Okay. And so it's kind of like this duality since the beginning of mankind.
So the question is, so the origin, as I'll just jump fast forward ahead. So Heiser would say that the seed of the people in Israel at that time were the seed of the Nephilim. They still had Nephilim in the land. The evidence we have of that is Joshua and Caleb, before they went on their trip into the wilderness. They actually went and scouted out Canaan, and they actually said there are giants that were 5 times the height of a man, and we were like grasshoppers in their sight and all that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Canaan at that time was being inhabited by Nephilim. So if you track with me here, this is the Heiser theory, that the Nephilim and the illegal seed, if you will, that were brought to the earth from Lucifer and his fallen watchers, okay, when they came and took human wives. And then if you go to the Book of Giants, you can actually see that God gets pretty pissed off about that. Like, origin of life is my domain, not yours. Okay? And so when your seed came into play, then it's your seed versus my seed. And so what a Heiser would say about Israel and the genocide that occurred there was God was eliminating the seed of the Nephilim from the earth. A seed that did not come from him. It does not belong in the universe. That's what Heiser would say.
With that kind of technology, you think just give them all a heart attack real quick, and then instead of having to slaughter every man, woman, and child with primitive weapons and such, I mean, just think how tough it would have been for the people that actually had to do that too. I mean, talk about PTSD.
No, yeah, I know, right? And again, I'm not saying I understand all of it, and I'm just giving you guys a perspective on it. But again, there's more to this than just straight up, you got to look one layer deeper and say, was there a conflict? Because the only time you see God ever do anything like that is when it had to do with the Nephilim. That's it. He doesn't do it any other time. There's no genocides on other groups. It's just the Nephilim.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It? Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like the flood, the Great Flood, they talked about every beast had been corrupted. Remember that?
I sure do. Absolutely.
So were they corrupted genetically? Is that what he was saying? I don't know. And I do know that he wiped out all the Nephilim in that flood. I do know that.
You don't think that the Rh negative bloodline is more of the Nephilim genetics and such?
There is a great discussion around that, right? So some believe that the Rh negative is signs of, and we would call that alien blood, right? So because remember, these were aliens that came down onto the mountain. They weren't supposed to touch down on Earth. They were supposed to watch the Earth. They weren't supposed to be part of the Earth, right? So here they come down. They think women are beautiful. They take wives to themselves, and they start having kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is all a big violation. They're not supposed to do that. Like, they violated the Prime Directive. Okay? They weren't supposed to do that. That would be seen as if we looked under a microscope of one of the children of one of these angels and a woman, right? We would only have, the only thing we could say is that's alien blood. Right?
Right.
Because it was from an alien, man. It was not a human. In the biblical view, that is, right? And I'm not.
There's science that points to that being just, there's certain things. We had Brad Olson on the other day, and he talked about the Rh negative factor for a few minutes. And basically what he said was, if you have Rh negative blood, there's certain genes and DNA structures there that aren't in people that have, you know, B or B positive or O positive or something like that. And if you give somebody that type of blood, like Rh negative that's B positive, then it will kill them. So it literally attacks them. So very strange anomaly indeed.
Oh, it is. And those are just scientific facts about, you know, what blood types that you can accept other blood types from.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's science. That's science. So Rh negative is very interesting. And I still haven't got my arms around it yet, my mind around it, if you will. I have at least 4 Rh negative people that are trying to tell me what's going on here, and I can't understand any of them.
Really? What are they? Are they correlating it to the Anunnaki, like Enki and Enlil?
Well, because this is what they're telling me. The Rh negative is everything with the abductions. It's with the Illuminati. Like, you couldn't be in the Illuminati unless you're Rh negative or something like that.
Well, there are a lot of bloodlines that are Rh negative, and there are a lot of abduction cases also with people that have that blood.
Right, and these are actual Rh negative people. One of them was supposedly on the run when she was sending me stuff. I haven't heard from her for 3 weeks. And she fires off this note to me saying, look, I'm targeted. They're coming after me. I got to tell you right now, I can't tell you much about what this is, but I'm Rh negative. Go look it up, kind of, right? I'm like, so I start looking it up. And then all of a sudden I get all these people talking to me about Rh negative blood. And then what was the most recent conversation I had with a guy? He was telling me that it had something to do with the lineage of Esau and Jacob, which to me still follows that line of thought, which is the seed of one race of people, like the let's call them the angelic class of people, the aliens that came down and made it with women, those guys, right? And then there's the pure human, genetics. Mm-hmm. And Rh negative is just people that have that bloodline from the fallen angels.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm looking at it as well, as far as just the connections and such. It's fascinating indeed. And, you know, Steve, I really appreciate you coming on here with us. I know that you have very limited time because you've got your own program. Folks, if you haven't heard of Steve before, I'm sure most of you have, but those that haven't, check out his website, his YouTube channel. It is Wormwood System Observer, WSO, Steve Olson. You are the man, Steve. It's always great to talk to you, my friend. I appreciate you coming out here and sharing so much knowledge and these pictures and photographs. I mean, this stuff is absolutely cutting edge.
It really is, man. I appreciate you too, Rex, and keep up doing the good job that you're doing, brother.
Will do. And if there's anything we can ever do to help, please let us know. We'll keep in touch and stay safe, Steve. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Why didn't we know that was coming? It was in the air or on its way.
It came out of the sun, Congressman Hall. It came from a direction where our telescopes could not look. We cannot look into the sun.
Well, we can't make that determination as to where it's going to come from. We ought to be able to do something no matter where it comes from if it's going to hit the Earth.
The most important single thing we could do to improve our capacity to see any asteroid of potentially damaging size coming would be an orbiting infrared telescope of the sort that the B612 Foundation.
No, thank you.
I'll show you what shoes to wear, how to fix your hair, everything that really counts to be popular. I know about popular.
It's popularity, bitch.
I know about popular.
Where this say that.
I know about popular.
Let me tell you about the popular plan. Kicking rocks, shooting blocks just to run from the man. Like an ostrich with his head in the sand. Puffy making a band, Wu-Tang making a clan. Let me tell you about the popular man, running streets with his peeps just to open a can. The major plan is to gain all the fans. Mass pollute the demand, perpetrating the land. Popularity begins like this. The clothes, the hair, and colorful lips. Would you believe the popularity used to be shit? It used to not matter how much flow you could spit. It used to not matter if your pants was ripped. It used to not matter how big is your click. All that really used to matter is that you're fully legit. But all that matters now is how big is your dick. It's popularity, bitch. Where it is, say that. Popularity. Does it even exist? Is life to end up on a list to get pissed? Decide not to take it no more and ball up your fist? I'd rather be kissed by osteoporosis than end up on a list of people permanently pissed. The train to all the riches I must have just missed. The paths I should have taken are gone with the mist. None of the shit matters. Popularity hits. They don't think about the mother in the ring with
We kind of wanted to clean this image up a little bit and not have the comment look funny. So,
There's no hocus pocus here, really, because of course the comet doesn't really look like what I'm showing right now. There's no hocus pocus here, really, because of course the comet doesn't really look like what I'm showing right now, right? Because of course the comet doesn't really look like what I'm showing right now, right?
Think about the mother.
Planet would give a lot of folks the willies.
Yeah, one man says it's been happening and that the government, specifically NASA, knows about it. J.R. Barry has the story.
It's a question man has been asking for centuries. Are we alone? And could there really be life out there somewhere? For some, the answer is easy. NASA, they say, knows that alien life exists and that we're being visited on a regular basis.
Maybe the powers to be are setting us up for disclosure and making it more subtle so that it isn't a big jolt to us.
Clifford Cliff is the worldwide director of MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. They have some 1,000 investigators. One of their latest investigations has to do with this video from January 28th of this year. A mysterious light is seen descending from the sky in Jerusalem. Multiple videos have surfaced of the supposed event. They all show the light hovering above the Dome of the Rock. After a few seconds, there appears to be some sort of energy burst. And then the light zooms away. So, is this proof positive that aliens exist, or is it nothing more than an elaborate hoax? MUFON believes NASA knows for sure.
They do have a significant amount of information about the UFO phenomenon and ETs that they have not disclosed that are still there. Some of the astronauts have come forward now and are indicating that they have seen and witnessed things that were beyond their explanation.
Last October, during a satellite interview with NASA Director Charlie Bolden, I asked the former astronaut if he had ever seen anything in space.
JR, I must admit, everybody that goes to space wants to see an alien. Or wants to see some evidence that there is other life in our universe, and I'm no different. But I am here to report that I saw no evidence, although deep in my heart I believe that there is good potential for other life in our universe.
There is no doubt we are being visited.
However, one of Bolden's colleagues says otherwise. Dr. Edgar Mitchell was the sixth man to walk on the moon. He came forward years ago claiming to have proof that alien life is out there.
The universe that we live in is much more wondrous, exciting, complex, and far-reaching than we were ever able to know up to this point in time. And the fact we have wondered, were we alone in the universe forever? Only in our period do we really have evidence, no, we're not alone.
So what's going on here? Why the different stories from two credible NASA sources? Last month, I had the chance to catch up with the NASA director again, this time in person, and I asked him about Ed Mitchell's stunning comments.
Ed Mitchell is a big believer in extraterrestrials. And as you and I talked about before, I am one who, because of my faith, I believe that there is very likely other life somewhere else in the universe. I just don't have any evidence to back that up. But Edgar is one who, contrary to my observations, actually claims to have evidence that extraterrestrials exist.
Well, even the Vatican is...
None. Paul Chodes is a scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. He and his boss, Don Yeomans, have been trying to track near-Earth objects for decades.
We didn't see it coming. It was coming from the general direction of the sun, so it was in the daytime sky as it approached.
So how did you find out about it?
Twitter and YouTube, when we first saw the images.
So the first people at NASA heard about it was Twitter?
Exactly.
The meteor that rocketed into Russia really got our attention a few weeks back. We learned today about the threat of such things to our modern world. In the meteor and asteroid tracking business, they call the big ones city killers. And while there was very little good news today about our chances of getting them before they get us, there was some talk about future remedies. Our report tonight from NBC's Stephanie Gosk.
Last month, a meteor rocketed into the atmosphere and exploded over Russia, frightening because the shockwave blew out windows and injured 1,200 people.
It came out of the sun. It came from a direction where our telescopes could not look.
Today at a hearing on Capitol Hill, leading space scientists told lawmakers the U.S. is not prepared to defend itself against meteors of the same size.
If you detected even a small one, like the one that detonated in Russia, headed for New York City in 3 weeks, what would we do?
The answer to you is, if it's coming in 3 weeks, pray.
Scientists say they have identified all asteroids large enough to wipe out the planet, like the one suspected of killing off the dinosaurs, and there is no immediate risk. The concern is meteors that are smaller, but still big enough to take out a city.
The number of undetected potential city killers is very large. It's in the range of 10,000 or more.
The probability of impact is low, they say, but at present funding levels, NASA believes it will take almost 20 years to identify them all. What would help is an infrared telescope. The government won't pay for one, but a former astronaut is looking to build the first ever privately funded deep space telescope. NASA is collaborating on the project, but the space agency says it still needs more money to identify and develop ways to protect the planet.
A good segment of the population thinks it's just a matter of call Bruce Willis in, and notwithstanding we don't have a shuttle anymore.
Press it!
Hollywood's version is definitely a bit dramatic, but scientists say there is reason to be concerned. The meteor in Russia was like a shot across the bow. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
CBS News contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at City University of New York. Welcome.
Glad to be on.
What do we expect to come out of these hearings?
Well, everything's on the table. Intercepting an asteroid, blowing it up, deflecting it. It's going to be like Buck Rogers meets the United States Congress. Now, it's a no-brainer that what they need first is an early warning system, a space telescope that can detect an asteroid from a distance, because it would only cost a few $100 million. That's chump change compared to like a stealth bomber. And realize the threat is real. You know, in Russia, if that asteroid had held intact for a few more seconds, it would have hit the ground with the force of 20 Hiroshima bombs. Casualties would have been...
The two events of Friday, February 15th, the harmless flyby of asteroid 2012 DA-14 and the not-so-harmless impact of a meteor in Russia, are a stark reminder of the need to invest in space science.
Reading from Dr. Holdren's testimony, says, quote, depending on its composition and velocity, an asteroid of 140 meters in diameter could have an impact energy in the range of 50 to 500 megatons of TNT equivalent and would be capable of causing destruction over a large region. Describe with greater detail what you mean by a, quote, large region, end quote.
The size you're talking about, 140 meters, and you've got the numbers exactly right, could devastate the better part of a continent. The only fortunate thing is that the estimated frequency with which objects of that size strike the Earth is about 1 in 20,000 years.
The one that hit Russia hit Russia, there's no question about that, and that's about all we know about it.
In the rain with their kids, they don't care about the kids laying dead with their friends, needing blood, a syringe, a gurney, gauze, and some meds, and a real good surgeon to remove all the lead. Now next you need a lawyer to help you defend. They're taking all your money, and then in the end, you're hoping that they let your broke ass join in. Join in. It's popularity, bitch. Say this, wear that. So to sum it all up, the popularity shit. They can all eat a dick, a pick up, swallow, and spit. So they know how to flash it to get under your skin. And I'ma show them how much I can do with a pen. I'ma show everyone just how they begin. I'ma keep pushing hits till they pulling me in, so I can roll in a Benz. Clown until I don't know which town that I'm in. Bitch, I can't wait for popularity's again. Live in the city of sin. Call me out, I'm gay. Say what, where, and when. I put you under a spin. Like fish, we're missing a fin. A dog caged in a pen. 10 man's heart in a bin. So haters keep on hating, cause my girl is a 10. Standing on the walls of something ready to end. Like popularity was even real to begin. Who thought I'd have to sell my soul to get right in? It's popularity, bitch.
Stay.
It is said, the comet always precedes them. These world enders. The cold sack planets are gone. 8 million settlers missing. The entire Aquilid system is gone too. Helion Prime shares its sunlight with all worlds nearby. If we fall, they fall. And after that, my God, how do I save my family? Have you heard anything I've said?